Hello, welcome to this demo of Ativo Programs, a solution to plan and execute Agile programs in Jira. First thing to notice is that Ativo Programs is embedded directly in Jira, and you can find it, so if you go to Jira, you can find it under Apps, and then here it is under Programs. So what you see here is the program plan or the program increment planning view. So you see here the multiple teams, Team Lion, Team Owl, and Team Rabbit. You see the sprints or iteration sprint 1, 2, 3, 4. There's also the unplanned column, which is for the backlog, and the unassigned, and that's for the epics and features that are not yet assigned to a specific team. In the view options, you can also choose to see all the stories. So if you click on that, that will show all the stories for those teams. And in the default view, you only have the issues or the tickets that have dependencies with other teams. For example, here we have line 10 as that's a bug, and it has a dependency with this ticket from Team Owl. Another example is this feature or this epic, which has a dependency with two tickets also in a team line. You notice that these lines are in red, and that's because the dependency is not respected. So if I change it, you see that the color changes to purple. Same here, if I move it, it becomes purple because the dependencies are respected. The data shown here is directly linked with the backlog of the teams and directly linked with the data in Jira. For example, we have line 18, which is in sprint 2. If we go to the backlog of that team in the board view, you will see line story 18, which is in sprint 2. So what I can do here is to move it, for example, to sprint 4. If I will go back to the Ativo view and I will click on refresh, you will see that this story line 18 is moving to sprint 4. So it's synchronized, and you can also do it in the other direction. So for example, we can move line 17 to sprint 1. And if I go here and I refresh as well, you will see that line 17 is now visible in sprint 1. What we also have in this view are extra information that is added to each ticket. So what we can change directly are the story points, and we can also change the color of the ticket, so we can add red or amber or green flag. So for example, if for line story 17 there is a risk that is raised, we can tag it as amber, and we can say, okay, we found a risk. A risk with new technology, for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, ABC. So we've added it to that ticket, and what you can now see if we go to the issue view of that ticket of line 17, you have the general tabs and fields, and you also have the program fields, and you can see the information there. So teams, they can update the information directly from the issue view, or they can do it from the program planning view as done here. What you see on top are the milestones, so we can add milestones. So I can change the name, for example, of this milestone. Release 2, for example, I submit it, and what you can see is that this milestone is visible on top of the sprint for all the teams. So those are the milestones at program level that you can change. Lastly, we also have filter view, which is interesting if there's multiple teams, of course, working on the same program. You have, for example, 15 teams working on it. Teams, they can filter on, so you can filter on the team then, for example, Team Line, and it will only show the tickets that are part of Team Line or that are linked to a ticket of Team Line. So you still see some stories here that are visible, but you can also choose not to show any related tickets, and then it will just show the ones of Team Line. So this now shows the issues, the stories and features of Team Line. If I click on include linked tickets, it will also show stories in other teams that have links with Team Line. There's similar filter possibilities on features on red, amber, green, for example. If you want to see all the issues, all the features that are tagged as amber, you can click here and select it. So this is the view for the program increment. I will now switch to the progress view where you will see a dashboard per team, and that you can use for art syncs or Scrum of Scrums. So there is a view per team, and actually I will switch to another environment where we have actual data, stories that are being completed. So I switch to this demo setting. So you see here the dashboard of a team together with the issues and risks that are raised, with a summary of the features and the dependencies that are open between teams, because that's typically something you want to keep an eye on. You see the sprints here, so sprint 1 till sprint 6, and the stories that have links with issues or stories in other teams or features in other teams. They're also visible here together with the red, amber, and green indicators. What we also have for the features or the epics is a view with all with the progress. So, and if you click on it, you'll get the details. So, for example, for this feature with 65 story points, you see that one story is finished and others are open, and you also see which of the stories are dependencies with other teams. So these stories, they're all part of the same team, of team line, but there's two stories that are part of another team, and you see them here with a dependency. What you also have is a forecast view. I will click a little bit away, some functionalities away. So what you see here in blue is the total amount of story points that are planned in this program increment, and in black is the stories or the story points that are already delivered sprint by sprint. And if I enable the gray line again, that gives a linear forecast for the coming sprint. So you will see here that somewhere between sprint 4 and 5, the team, if they keep the same sprint velocity, they're likely to deliver the planned in stories for this program increment. There's also a green and amber line, and that gives the optimistic and the pessimistic view, if I can say it like that. It gives a linear forecast based on the fastest sprint velocity, so that's the green one, and the amber one, it's on the slowest sprint velocity. And I've chosen in sprint 1 not to deliver anything, so it gives a very clear view that the sprint velocity of the first sprint is 0, which means that the forecast is also 0 for the worst case. So it gives a very wide possibility here in this case. There's also a purple line, which is the and I will click away the other lines so to give a more clear view on that. So the purple line, actually, that's the line with the total amount of committed story points. So what you can do, and I will go back to the plan view, you can choose, if I enable the detailed view, you can choose for features to say if they are committed to this current program increment. So that's, for example, the case in this one, feature 3, it's committed. You can also say that some features, they are in a stretch or uncommitted, which means they're planned in, but they're still an important risk. You can also say that features are added afterwards. So for example, that they're added later in the period. And you will see that as well in this view. So you see they're committed, they're stretch, or they're extra. And in this forecast view, you will also see them, the purple story points, that's the total amount of story points that are for all the features that are committed, while the blue one is for everything, so committed and stretch or uncommitted. If you want to use that, you can give that forecast. So the milestones that we saw, they're also visible here. So I switch to environment. I will switch back to the first one. You will see that the same milestones are visible as we've seen before in the planning view. What I will show you now as well is how to configure this. So first of all, we can configure the teams. In the team, we have a name and a key, like for a project in Jira. And then there you can choose a different mode. So either you choose a Scrum mode, a team can work in the Scrum mode, meaning we'll take a look at the sprints, or in a Kanban mode, and then the mapping is done based on the due date or based on the resolution date. Teams can also choose to use story points for the estimation, man days, or no estimation, and based on that choice, you see here we have one team with story points, one with no estimation, and one with man days. If I will go back to the progress view, you will see the first team, it's in story points, the second team, it's just counted, and the third team, it's in man days that it's estimated. So it supports these three estimation methods. And then for the filtering, you can define how the scope, you can define the scope of the team actually based on a filter that you set. So for example, you can choose a Jira project, or you can say, okay, it's a combination of one or multiple Jira projects together with the field, for example, select that you've created, or it's not visible here, but you can also choose if you have team plans and teams, you can also choose the team here and say you want to filter on the team. For the program filtering, we also have a program name and a key. You can then select the teams that are part of the program and you can drag and drop them in the order you prefer. You can select the filter on the epics. And with epic, I mean an epic in Jira, which is a feature according to the SAFe methodology. And there as well, you can filter on Jira projects, multiple projects if you want to, and a combination of fields or even multiple fields if you would like to define the scope of the features that you want to include in the program. There's also an advanced option where you can set a filter based on for the issues or the stories. The default is that it will take the epics and everything that's under it and then combine it with the team filters. That's usually the most practical way to set it up. But if you want to directly define the issues with a filter, you can do so, and you can define a filter and set it up like that. The third configuration is for the period or the program increment. So again, we have a name and a key, and then we have the different sprints or iteration in the current program increment with a start and end date for each sprint. And then we map the sprints at team level or at board level with the sprints at program level. So we choose which sprint for this team. For team Linux, for example, we say, okay, sprint 1 for this program increment, it's that sprint 2, it's this sprint 3, it's that sprint, and so forth. If a team is working Kanban, obviously it's not using sprint, and the mapping is done based on the start and the end date. And also here we have some optional filters that you can add to say, and those are then used in combination with the team filters and the program filters to say, okay, I want to further narrow down the epics or the stories that I want to see in my current program increment. So you can set that there. So those are the options to configure the application for the program increments. There's also advanced options for the administrator to set up the tool. I will quickly show that as well. So in terms of security, you can define who is able to update a program to make sure that it's not deleted by accident. So you can choose which group, which Jira group gets access to update the programs and to update the period configuration that we just saw. You can also, if you have multiple epic issue types, because by default we're using the epic issue type, but if you have multiple ones, you can, in your setup, you can, that's already advanced, you can define which one should be used. And for the link types, by default, it's using, for the dependencies, it's using the blocking issue link type or the dependency link type. But if you have another one that you've defined, custom one, you can select it here, and it will then be used in the planning and progress views. So that's what I wanted to share with you. Thank you for your attention. If you want to know more about Ativo Programs, you can book a demo or request a free trial, start a free trial on our website, ativo.io. Thank you for your attention and have a great day.